Oops, I almost did it. Wonderful. Okay, I'm going to just start over again just because I want to make sure we have this recorded. All right, you guys, welcome to Power of the Peptides. I'm super glad that you're here. If this is your first Power of the Peptides, will you drop a one in the chat? Some people watch these often, others do not, but I would love to hear from you, just kind of where you're at on that spectrum. For those of you who are brand new here, Power of the Peptides is something that I like to do relatively regularly, maybe like once or twice a month, where real people just share real experiences. It's not a sales pitch, it's not a medical lecture. It really is just an honest conversation around what midlife actually looks like. And what's helped some of us. It doesn't even have to be midlife, but for majority of us, that's kind of the sphere that we're in right now. If you have not met me yet, my name is Holly. I am 51. I live in Maui with my husband. I am a mom to three grown daughters, and I am very much in the midlife chapter, personally and professionally. Hold on, let me let a few more people in. All right. So tonight is just a girlfriend style conversation. I don't have any slides to present to you. It's just going to be a great conversation. So if questions come up, I want you guys to drop them in the chat. We're going to try and get to them at the end. So make sure that you just drop them in there so that you don't forget them. All right. Um, so first, let's talk about what a peptide actually is, because I know a lot of you are suddenly hearing that word everywhere, whether it's on social media, whether it's on, a podcast, or maybe even a friend is talking about it, or maybe even from your provider. I just got off a call with a lady who was prescribed some peptides from her naturopath, and she got no guidance. She had no idea what she was using, and she was actually using a research peptide, and we can talk a little bit about that later. But she was so confused and honestly so frustrated. And so we had a great conversation. So, again, I'm sure you're hearing this everywhere. And you don't need a science degree, you guys, to understand peptides. At the core, peptides are just short chains of amino acids, which are the building blocks of protein. But the most important thing to understand is this: peptides are just tiny little messengers. Okay, they tell your body what to do. Think of them just like little text messages inside your body. One says, make more collagen. Another says, support tissue repair. Another might say, help regulate blood sugar or support recovery. Your body naturally makes thousands of these signaling peptides. But here's the key part for midlife. As we age, those signals slow down. Just like energy dips, recovery takes longer, sleep changes, skin changes, hormones shift, and peptide signaling changes too. Grab some people in here. So that peptide signaling can change. And that's where the peptide therapy comes in, not to replace your body, but just to support that communication that's kind of starting to lag. So midlife isn't just about hormones. And this is where so many women, I think, kind of feel blindsided. It's really a perfect storm, if you will. Hormones are shifting, recovery slows, your sleep is suffering, inflammation starts to creep in, blood sugar levels, come up. Muscle is harder to maintain. I mean, when I say the perfect storm, I truly do mean that. And many women are doing everything right and they're still feeling stuck. Peptides are one supportive layer that can help your body respond better during this phase. And no, they don't replace hormones. I think that's really important to understand. They do not replace hormones. I'm a huge believer in hormone therapy when it's appropriate, but peptides can support how your body responds, and in some cases, help everything work more efficiently together. Okay, so I want to share just a little bit about my story really quick in case you guys have, not heard it. But there was a point in midlife where I felt like I woke up in a completely different body, one that didn't come with a user manual. And I'm sure probably some of you guys can relate. I was a health and wellness coach and a nutritional therapy practitioner. And I taught women how to build the foundation through strength training, through proper nutrition, through the recovery, through consistency. This wasn't new information for me. I wasn't guessing, I wasn't skipping steps. When I say I was doing everything the way it was supposed to be done, I truly do mean that. And it got to a point where nothing that I was doing was moving the needle at all. And honestly, that's what made it so frustrating. And this is where I talk to a lot of people who feel the exact same way. But what made it even harder was the confusion. When you understand the science, when you've coached women through this exact process and your own body still isn't responding, it really kind of messes with your confidence in a very real way. I lost some confidence there. I avoided photos. I dreaded putting on the bathing suit. Um, and, the questions, running through my head was, why isn't my body responding anymore when I'm doing everything right? This is when my hormone doctor suggested something completely different. And honestly, she really threw me for a loop when she did this. But she mentioned, or she recommended, I should say, that I try a very small dose of a GLP, not as a solution, but almost like an experiment. She said, Holly, just try it as an experiment. See how your body responds with, the proper fueling and everything still in place. So I did. And that experience changed everything for me. It was the beginning of my relationship with peptides. Not because it was dramatic or not because it was extreme, but because for the first time in a long time, my body started responding again. And that experience, I'm in a mute. Are we good? Okay. Anyway, that experience forced me to stop chasing discipline and start looking deeper at midlife physiology. And it led me into metabolic support, smarter fueling, I would say more intentional strength training, and then eventually deeper peptide education. Not as a shortcut, not as a, fix all, but as an additional layer of support for a body that simply just wasn't responding the way that it used to. Okay. So I know there's a lot of curiosity around GLP-1s and microdosing in particular. Um, and with the curiosity also comes, a lot of judgment. And what many people don't realize is that GLP-1s are peptides. They were originally developed for blood sugar regulation, but, clinicians began noticing additional benefits. They had the reduced inflammation, appetite regulation, and improved metabolic markers, kind of like Latisse. Do you guys remember Latisse? It was originally a glaucoma medication, and doctors began noticing that patients were coming back in with longer, darker, fuller lashes as almost like a side effect. And the unexpected benefit led to further studies, and eventually it was repurposed and approved specifically for eyelash growth. So that's a great example of how a medication can be created for one purpose, and then additional benefits were discovered through, real world use, very similar to what later happened to, or what now I guess I should say, happened to the GLP-1 medications. Microdose simply means using a dose below standard weight loss dosing. Okay, so the goal really, the goal really isn't appetite suppression. It's not starving yourself. The goal is metabolic support. And for midlife women, microdosing can be just what you need to help quiet that food noise, to help support your blood sugar balance, to reduce some inflammation, and really help break some of the stubborn plateaus, that many of us are dealing with, all while preserving muscle strength and energy. And, I want to be really clear here. No one here is telling you that you should do this. Okay. Nobody is telling you that you have to do this. We're just going to be simply sharing information and lived experience so that you can decide what's right for you. So for me, peptides have supported me in multiple ways, from reducing the inflammation, which, by the way, if you're a midlife woman, I guarantee you're probably more inflamed than you actually think you are. Better recovery after my workouts, definitely some improved sleep, I've had skin and tissue support, body composition support, all of that without sacrificing my muscle. And at 51, I feel stronger than I ever have, clear-minded, and really confident in my body again. And that didn't come from one thing. It came from layering support intelligently. And that's what tonight is all about. Okay. So now I want to introduce you to a few incredible women. One of which they're both brand partners with LEMD. But Ruth, I'm excited to introduce you. But instead of me talking about you, why don't you step in and introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about you, what you do, and what your experience has been with peptides.
Thanks, Holly. My name is Ruth. I'm from Georgia and I'm 56. I have three adult sons. I'm a Mimi to two amazing grandsons and a granddaughter on the way. And like Holly, I am a health coach. I've been training women in health and fitness and wellness and everything you could think of that encompasses wellness for 25 years. So I've lived and breathed it. I've always been in shape. I've been a triathlete in college, lots of sports. I live, breathe all the activities, eat super well, don't have any cravings. And fitness was easy, and staying fit and looking great was my norm. A year and a half ago, actually 3 years ago, I filed for divorce after a revelation that ended a 30-year marriage. And that divorce lasted for 2 years. And I was stressed. It was extremely stressful. You carry stress in your body. Your cortisol is going to take a toll, whether it's lack of sleep or belly fat. And at the same time, my body started to approach menopause. So I had this beautiful collision of high cortisol and lack of sleep and stress, coupled with all the changes in my hormones. And all of a sudden, I went from trim and my norm was working for me to I gained 15 pounds in 6 months. And it was like a weird weight gain. It was like on my belly, in my thighs, in my butt in a way that I've never seen. And it was like, it was awful. It was awful. And Holly was on my Instagram for years. I had followed her, and I also followed a few other gals that were in the fitness space, and I saw them talking about peptides, and I had started doing like NAD plus and some other things on my own. And I think before, like GLPs, when they were, brought up, were like, that's cheating and all the things, because I didn't have to worry about it. Right? When all of a sudden I was doing still all the right things and my body was rebelling, I started to do some research. I was listening to all the podcasts and wanted to try it for myself, because I knew that there were going to be women like me that were doing the right things, that were doing all the wellness that they could do, but their body was just starting to not respond. And the GLP for me was really a great experience. I microdosed tirzepatide. In 14 weeks, I lost 21 pounds, which is a good pound to a pound and a half a week. And that's a good dose. But I still was doing all my layers that I know to do, with the resistance training, the working out, the eating clean, all the things. I never dealt with food noise before, but all of a sudden I was like, okay, I'm not craving the Nutella that's in the pantry. And I really had a hard time like wanting a glass of wine or finishing a glass of wine, which isn't a bad thing, right? So that kind of got me excited about peptides. after I wrapped up my microdose on tirzepatide, I wanted to start BPC 157 and TB 500 because I was a triathlete. I had a lot of old injuries that were just naggy, hamstring issues, a shoulder issue, my hip. And I am just about to wrap that up. And I'm so pleased with how my body has responded to BPC 157 TB 500, which is a tissue repair peptide. It helps with old injuries, or if you've had surgery, helping your body get back to its norm quicker. My hamstrings feel great. My hip feels amazing. I mean, I was hurting at night sleeping on it. So the fact that my hip is better is awesome. And then more recently, I added the GHKCU, which is our copper peptide that helps with the skin, with the hair, with tissue repair. And so you're just going to see me glowing all over.
Yeah.
But I love peptides because it's not just about weight loss, it's about longevity. And so for me as a health professional, I'm proud that I have something that I could share with my clients who are also in midlife that want to stay looking younger longer, that have got injuries. And, in our 50s, we've got things, there's aches, there's shoulder stuff. I have a lot of clients with shoulder issues. And so for me to be able to offer something that our body makes, that our body recognizes, that is healthy, is a slam dunk. And when I saw Holly sharing about it, I was like, first of all, I love Holly and I appreciate your approach to peptides. It's very educational, and I try to be the same way. I want people to know how to do this responsibly. I want people to know how to do this so that their results last. And I want to be like the girl next door that, they could share their woes, and I'm an ear to listen to, but I have something that I could share that can help. So it's something that I love, because who doesn't want to get to the root of the problem, right? It's not medication that is just masking the issue. It's something that is like, hey, we can work at the mitochondrial level, at the cellular level, and we're visually reducing aging, we're cellularly reducing aging, we're promoting longevity. And that's something that I am super excited about. I will die on the hill that a microdose is a great layer. It's not a cheat. You don't have to white knuckle your way to try to lose your 10 to 15 menopausal pounds. It's something that will support what you're already doing. So that gets me super excited. And I just love that we have a tool that we can offer to women and men that are going through midlife woes and they want to stay younger longer. So
Yes. Yes to all of that. Oh my gosh. So earlier today, I was asked, Holly, if you were stranded on an island and you could only take one peptide for life, like what would it be? And I didn't even have to think twice about it. I was like, hands down, a microdose of GLP. And they were like, really? And I said, yes. Even of all the other peptides out there, I think so many of them are amazing. I've had great results from them. I just feel like the collective support that you get from a microdose of a GLP when it comes to brain support and heart support and liver support and reduced inflammation, like it is that peptide that just really does bring everything together in midlife so that your body starts to function the way that it's supposed to. So I too am dying on that hill.
I will say this,
Absolutely.
I forgot to say, one of the beautiful side effects that both Holly and I received without even looking for it was the anti-inflammatory benefit. And I was dealing with plantar fasciitis last summer in both of my feet, and pretty quickly that pain went away. And I was like, okay, that's pretty awesome, And so like you'll notice, and I have had a lot of customers say like, oh my gosh, like my inflammation is down, or I feel so amazing. People, even though they reach their weight, they do want to stay on something very, very small just to help with the inflammation, because when you feel good, that you don't realize, wow, like this is pretty awesome.
Yeah. And a lot of people are walking around just a little bit like puffier. That's the best way to describe it. I had dropped significant weight in a very short period of time, and I know it was not fat. I know it was not fat. I know so much of that was inflammation. I felt it in my belly. I felt it around my ankles, like on my leggings. And even yet, as somebody who was doing all the right things, the inflammation was still there. And honestly, it was keeping me from seeing a lot of the results that I was looking for. And as someone who was a fitness and nutrition coach and spent a lot of time in front of the camera and on Instagram, I did not realize how closely people were paying attention to my physique. And after one dose of a GLP, the inflammation went down, and people wanted to know immediately, Holly, what are you doing differently? Like something has changed. You look different. And that's when I was blown away. Not only number one, like how, much people paid attention, but also at, just the inflammation and how much it does change your body composition, especially when you're in, like workout clothes. So, and again, I think most of us in midlife are dealing with inflammation, and some of us more so than we really think we are. And when it's not there anymore, it's just incredible how much better you feel, right? Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing. Next, we're going to hear from Tony. Tony, I'm very excited that you are here, and I'm excited to hear your story. I too am going to let you introduce yourself and share with us a little bit more about your story and how you got started.
All right. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. So I'm Tony and I live in Washington and I am a mom of five and I homeschool them. And actually, I only homeschool three now because our twins graduated last year. And I'm a firefighter wife. He's newly retired, so that's a whole new thing for us to experience here. Um, So I have notes here just so I stay on track and don't get too far off. But I have been in the health and fitness space for close to 40 or 30 years. When I was 17, I started weightlifting in high school and I fell in love with it. And I actually did a bodybuilding competition, became a personal trainer, went to college for exercise science. And my goal was to own a gym, and like impact women. But life happens and I got pregnant with twins and my body didn't recover like I thought it would. I had twins, and then 2 years later, had our son, so it was never a real recovery. And after he was born, is when we started noticing that something was wrong with my thyroid. And they didn't really know what to do because I was nursing and all the things when it was first coming out, and that was about 17 years ago. And I'd always, been someone who worked out on a consistent basis. Lifting was really at my core. I tried to like do running, but honestly, I would rather lift weights any day than do the cardio. And I focused on nutrition, but I still was noticing I kept gaining weight. And then they finally figured out that I had Hashimoto's, which is the autoimmune form of hypothyroidism. So my own body is attacking my thyroid gland. And I've been through several different doctors and, they would just say, well, maybe you just need to cut out more food, or maybe you need to work harder. And, I was already doing the right things, just like both of you had said, I was already doing my workouts, already, tracking my macros, making sure I had enough protein. Um, and, I would try to like restrict more and work out more. And honestly, that made me feel worse. And I've actually even had a doctor tell me, I don't think you're really being honest with what you're doing. And that's why you're not seeing results. And that really stung, for a doctor to not believe me. And so I just kind of felt like for years, I, I felt like a fraud in my own body. I would avoid pictures with my kids. I honestly would make up like excuses why I couldn't go to church just because I didn't feel comfortable in my own clothes. Um, And I was just like in this cycle. And I really felt like a fraud because I too have been an online health and fitness coach for years. And I was telling everybody to do what I was doing, the basics, the foundations, and it wasn't working for me. And I just kept seeing the scale go up. Um, and I actually had another person tell me, well, people with thyroid problems, you can't really help them. And that really like lit a fire under me to be like, you know what, there's got to be something, because I knew there had to be someone else like me that was struggling, doing all the right things and not seeing the results. Um, so actually, I'd seen on Instagram people, doing the shots and losing the weight. And I just like that, I would never do that. Like I wanted to be somebody who did it the old-fashioned way, I'll say.
Mm-hmm.
And I was actually at my functional medicine doctor appointment. It was almost a year ago. And I would bring in a spreadsheet of my macros to, I wanted her to see that what I was actually doing. And she said, Tony, what have you ever considered doing a GLP? And I honestly, the look in my face, it had to be like, are you kidding me? Like, why would you even like ask me to do something like that? Like, I thought it would be cheating. Um, and I saw people that didn't work out using it, and I thought that was like the easy way out, and I didn't want that for me. Um, but she said, what if you just give it a try? And I thought, okay, I'll give it a try. And we started on semaglutide, and I honestly didn't feel great. So we switched to tirzepatide. And the first thing I noticed wasn't necessarily the scale moving. Oh, I also want to add that my other concern was I didn't want to be losing muscle. I'd been somebody, that had built muscle since I was 17. I didn't want to just lose it um, in the name of trying to lose weight. So we did like body scans to make sure I wasn't losing the muscle. And so the first thing I noticed, it was probably a couple weeks into it, that I no longer had that food noise. Like I have always been somebody making chocolate chip cookies. I would eat so much of the dough, like it's ridiculous. I hate to even admit it. Or chocolate in the house, like it's not safe around me. But I no longer was like thinking about it, because for years, I'd heard like, oh, chew gum or drink water or brush your teeth so that you didn't want to like eat the food. And I no longer even like had to like try to trick myself to not want the food. And so that was really life changing. And when I noticed, I went to a doctor in the fall. So this was about an 8-month span. And she was like, oh, wow, you've really lost some weight. And I was like, I didn't see like a significant weight loss. Like I'd seen other people losing a ton at one time, but I was down 16 pounds. So I did the scan again and I lost 4% body fat. And of the 16 pounds, 6 of that was body fat. And so it really made me like realize, like, if you've ever seen those, like the muscle and the fat, like side by side, we had in like health class, like
Mm-hmm.
to realize like 6 of those, I lost 6, like it was just amazing to me. But my biggest win was that I'm no longer insulin resistant. When I went, yeah, 6 of those.
It's a lot,
And
you guys. It really is a lot when you think about it. This is 1 pound of fat right here. And when you
yeah,
think of 6 of those, I mean, that is a lot coming off of your body. That's
yes.
exciting. That's so exciting. Sorry, I didn't mean to
So
interrupt.
that's okay. Um, Last January, my doctor, we did labs, we checked hormones, and she said, yeah, that I was insulin resistant and I was on my way to being diabetic. And so that really was the eye opener when she started suggesting this. And I'm no longer insulin resistant. So that is exciting. And my inflammation has come down, which is good with the Hashimoto's. And, my journey's been slower, but, I'm going in the right direction and not sacrificing the muscle as well. And one of the biggest shifts for me wasn't physical. It was realizing I didn't have to decide between doing the hard work, tracking the macros, doing the workouts, and asking for support and getting help. I used to think it was either or, and you can do both. So I still lift, I still track my macros, focus on my sleep, hydration, all of those things, that we're told to do. But now instead of just doing it and not seeing the results and feeling like I'm trapped, I'm actually seeing results. Um, so my biggest thing is that if anyone is like hesitant, you scared, that, you don't need to be. Like I seriously was so ashamed to ask for help. I didn't want to be one of those people. And I honestly let other people's opinions like hold me hostage. Um, And if I would have started sooner, I would be further along in my journey. So um, that's pretty much my story. And you know,
That's
I don't know if you have any
amazing.
questions.
Oh, that is so amazing. Oh my gosh. I'm super proud of you. I'm super proud of you. And I'm so happy that you started your journey and that you found some of the support that you needed. And again, I think it's really important to understand that this is an added layer of support. This is not a magic pill or a magic shot. You have to be able to and be willing to do the work right alongside it in order to see the full effect of what these peptides can potentially do for you. Yeah. Does
Right.
anybody have any questions at all? Ruth, you've been a champ in the chat answering questions, which is amazing. Anybody else have any questions for us? Any of us? At all? We're here to, Ruth, I'm gonna unmute you. Sorry. There you go. Anybody?
Somebody was asking if you should cycle GLPs. Um, I just said you don't have to. You can if you want to, but a lot of people, again, like I said, when you notice that inflammation is gone, they might just go on a micro dose. Like Holly takes the teeniest tiny dose, not because she's trying to lose weight anymore. She just likes that anti-inflammatory benefit, and you
Yeah, I
can
think
count.
yeah, I think it's really important to know. I'm a huge fan. Everybody's a little bit different. I'm a huge fan of cycling most peptides. I feel like it's a great idea to give your receptors an opportunity to do what they are designed to do. And, essentially we're just kind of helping them with the peptides. We are kind of opening up that pathway again, that signaling. We're getting that signaling to become a little bit more clear than what it had been, just basically because we're getting older. But GLPs are kind of different in that sense. They have been studied and researched for a really long time, despite what you might hear from some people. They have been studied for long-term use, both in pediatrics as well as adults. So this is not one that you need to cycle off of. You certainly could. I've had a couple clients do it, and within about 2 weeks, they're like, "All right, forget it. This is not for me." And they just miss that little extra support when it comes to the quieting of the food noise and when it comes to the reduction in inflammation. But honestly, the metabolic markers are so profound, like I mentioned before, that this is something that just a couple drops for some of us is all it takes. And so this is probably something that I will stay on for the foreseeable future for sure.
So I wanted to answer Christy's question about
Oh
why
yeah.
did I switch from the functional medicine over to here? And um, so first off, she no longer could prescribe it for me because I get it compounded. And I actually live in Washington and I had to go straight across straight state lines to get it in Idaho. And she no longer could prescribe it. So she said, go through the pharmacy and he will prescribe it. But there was no like doctor oversight. There was no like, any checking in on me anymore, which I was like, I didn't really feel comfortable in that. So it was the same. I saw Holly sharing on Instagram. I followed her for a couple years and I was like, you know what, I'm going to look into this. And what I like about it is that, I get the doctor to regulate my dosage instead of me just saying, oh, you know what, I could just say whatever I wanted to this pharmacy and he would just give it to me. Um, and so that's why one of the main reasons I switched over, plus all the other peptides that are not weight loss, that are, longevity, that are going to help me with. I also have had a foot injury. And so I'm excited to add in some of those that I couldn't get directly from the pharmacy. And since my functional medicine doctor couldn't prescribe it anymore, that's why I'm over here. I'm getting the same medical oversight that she gave me, but now it's from the comfort of my home instead of driving 2.5 hours to go to the doctor one way.
It's so true. It's so true. It's really being able to get your hands on these in a very safe way with the medical oversight. That's huge because the peptide space really is kind of like the wild, wild west. I will say research peptides are definitely not, they're not going to be here, I don't think, long. And I don't think, I know I touched on them earlier, but You really don't have the oversight that you have here, which I think is just so amazing. We check all the boxes when it comes to quality, when it comes to sourcing, when it comes to medical oversight. Everything is compounded through an NABP certified 503A compounding pharmacy for potency, purity, sterility. It's triple filtered. You get everything that you need delivered right to your door. Like it really just doesn't get more easier than that with, I think when it's accompanied with a medical oversight. So they're making sure that, the peptide that you are looking to purchase is going to be a good fit for you and that there are no contraindications based on anything else that you're taking. And that safety in and of itself, I think just makes us stand out above and beyond so many others, they don't even offer that to begin with. Any questions here that, how do you know if a peptide doesn't work for you? What are the side effects? Lisa, this could really depend. Everybody is different and everybody responds differently to every peptide. So doing a little research, if there is a peptide that you're interested in learning more about, I highly recommend, going to the website and reading about it, learn about it, look at some, FAQs, some testimonials, understand that peptide, and then you can always come back to one of us that invited you and ask because well, I know for myself personally, I have got experience with just about every single peptide that we have at this point. And I love to share my personal experience, but then again, that's just me and how I've responded. And some people don't respond the same way. What's most important with peptides is that you bring your patients. Okay, these are not like overnight miracles. And I think where some people get tricked up with this is that they start on the tirzepatide or, any sort of GLP, and these hit pretty hard pretty quickly for a lot of people. They feel better like right away. And so they expect every peptide to be like that. And that is not how it works by any means. Peptides work quietly behind the scenes. And so many peptides you don't actually see or feel the results from until you're like week 6, week 8, and you're consistently taking these. So it's really important to, I think, just set the expectation there depending on, the peptide itself in your own body as far as how it responds. And each one can have a slightly different side effect. Like everybody wants to know about GHKCU, right? Touted as the beauty peptide when it comes to skin, hair, nails, collagen, elastin, it's wound healing, it's all the things that just are so appealing, but it's also a copper peptide, and copper is naturally acidic. So oftentimes this is accompanied with a slight histamine reaction, which means that at the injection site, you might get itchy, you might have like a red bump and it might hurt for, a day or two. And then your body gets used to it. And the more you take it, the more your body gets used to it, the less of a histamine reaction you get. But it is something that's there as long as it's not something that is going, systemic throughout your body. That's just a localized, reaction to it. Oftentimes that's harmless and you just, your body just gets used to it the more that you take it. Some peptides are like that. Some are a little bit more zingy than others. Others you can't even feel going in, and other ones, you've got to inject slowly because they're a little bit thicker. You find a different injection site that works a little bit better for you. There's lots of nuances here, and everybody is really different when it comes to these peptides. I hope that answered your question. Um, Yeah. Do you talk face to face with a doctor before starting Ellie? This is such a great question. And so, yeah, actually now you have an opportunity to do so. So I really like to set the expectation here because this is something we just recently launched about a month and a half ago, and it kind of took off like gangbusters. So there's a $50 fee where you can have a one-on-one with a doctor. Currently it's Dr. Wagner, but tomorrow we are going to be finalizing all of the paperwork to bring another doctor on board as well. So these are just one-on-one consults where you can go and you can talk to them and talk about, maybe what you're thinking about, what you want, what your medical history looks like, and all of that. And then when you have that consult, you get a $25 voucher towards the purchase of a product. So it's essentially a $25 consultation, if you will. However, it's really important to know that he will not be your prescribing doctor. So even though he might say, oh, I think this would be a really good fit for you, you're still going to go through your doctor network in your state that's officially going to be the one that approves or denies it. So, for some people, they really want that. I will tell you they're pushed out about a month at this point, I think, at least. And you still get the medical oversight if you move through, to grab a product that you want, and you get connected with the doctor, and then ultimately they're going to let you know whether that's a good fit for you. And anybody who is here can certainly help point you in the direction. But it is there and it is available if that's something that you would like, but you don't have to go through a doctor consultation prior to. But you do have to fill out a medical intake form with each and every peptide. Have you heard of somebody 70 years old with other health problems do this? I asked my doctor to put me back on Adderall to help me control my impulse eating, and he strongly cautioned me against that. He prescribed Wegovy 9 semaglutide tablets. Only been using since March 9th. Rebecca, how are you feeling on those tablets? I would love to know if you're willing to share.
Um,
Hi.
oh, hey, I haven't done Zoom calls much.
That's
You
okay.
can, you can hear me and see me, I guess.
I can. Yes, absolutely.
Well, because there's some other health issues, and I'm going to go. I've never been to a rheumatologist,
Okay.
but having some pretty significant pain to where I'm having to take tramadol to sleep.
Okay.
Uh, and an anti-inflammatory, actually. Also, anyway, but I am taking the Wegovy. You know, I've got so much going on. I'm not sure. It's I've lost weight, and it may be because I don't like to take medicine, and I'm just like, this has got to work because I'm taking a pill. But yeah, like I said, I'm having some muscle and new issues, and so I couldn't give you an honest answer.
Okay.
So many
Okay.
different things, but I have lost a little bit of weight.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. It does sound you've got lots of stuff going on. So, what I can tell you just from personal experience, and nobody asked this, but I'll just go ahead and share it because I often get asked, Holly, what about, the oral drops, or what about, capsules versus an injection? And I think it just kind of depends on where you're at. But one thing that I can tell you is that anytime something has got to pass through your digestive system, you are not going to benefit from all of that product. It doesn't matter what it is. Your stomach is designed to break things down with all the gastric juices and the enzymes. It breaks it all down, and then what's left gets used. And peptides, in particular, are incredibly fragile. And so oftentimes they get broken down in your stomach, and the results are just they're very unpredictable. Some people see a slight benefit from them, others just think it's a waste of money. So it's kind of all over the board there. But for some people who are like, absolutely not, I cannot do an injection, the oral drops or something like that, or a capsule, I suppose, could be a better option. But anytime you have the potential to bypass the digestive system with an injection, you are benefiting from all of that product. And so, in order to get the most bang for your buck from a peptide, this is one of those things where the injection, just in my opinion, is above and beyond the capsule forms. I know nobody asked, but I just felt like that would be something worth sharing because I do get that question often. That's why I was asking about the capsules for you. But yes, I do. 78, my mom's 78. She is on a weight loss dose, and she is just thriving on it now. I mean, her inflammation's down. She's got severe arthritis in both of her knees. She's doing wonderful on a GLP. Wonderful.
Well, I know very little about the company. I know Ruth personally, and after the call later on, she and I will text, and I didn't even realize apparently, I didn't, there's a company, and I get
Yeah,
I mean, everybody on the call probably knows this, so I'll
that's
talk
okay.
to her. We'll get it set up.
That's okay. Ruth is amazing and she'll help guide you in that right direction. But yes, you do have somebody else. We are not doctors here. We don't even have to pretend to be because we have got the medical oversight at LAMD. So we can simply point you in the right direction, get you in the hands of somebody who can answer some of those questions for you, which I think is always, always super important. Um, how do we sign up? Corey, you can book a call with me if you'd like. I have that right on my Instagram bio. If you click on that, the first thing is book a call. If you want to chat through options for you, I'd be more than happy to go ahead and do that. But that link is right there for sure. Will your company introduce oral doses? Yes. So, Rebecca, we do. Those oral doses are there. We do have the GLPs in oral drops. Those are the ones that I was telling you about. Um, those are definitely available. Ruth, did you get the answer? Ruth, you are on top of it. Okay. Any other questions? This is fun. I could do this all day long. This is like speaking my language right here. Anybody? Anybody? No, I know we've gone over a little bit. Um, this is great. Okay. Well, you guys, we all come to, I think, this peptide space just at different points in our lives. Many of us have used different ones that have, really supported us in different ways. And my hope is that tonight just kind of helped answer many of your questions. But if something still feels a little bit unclear, just reach out to the person who invited you to this call, and they'll be able to guide you and help you through, next steps if that's something that you want. What I will say is that you guys peptides can be so supportive. They can just be such a great option in midlife. I've heard some physicians suggest that microdosing GLP could be beneficial for many people in this stage of life. And this is coming even from physicians. And I'm not making that claim here, but it does speak to how powerful these tools can be when they're used thoughtfully and appropriately. So if you're not feeling optimized and you are struggling in midlife, or even it doesn't just have to be midlife. I say that because that's really the season that I'm in and the season that so many of us are in. This could be something worth exploring. So, those of us sharing today, we all order our peptides through a concierge telehealth provider, which is LAMD. And, as I've mentioned before, one of the reasons we have chosen this is because everything is integrated and medically overseen. I just cannot state how important this is. When you place your order, whether it's for, a microdose or any other peptide, your medical intake is always reviewed by a licensed provider. So you are assigned a physician who oversees your care, and you can message them through your patient portal. Once you are a patient, you are connected to them, or a client, you're connected to them. And so you can ask all the questions, that you have and get, clinical response to. Your order then is delivered straight to your door. You guys, it's shipped on cold packs and includes everything that you need. You're not going out, trying to find, bacteriostatic water or syringes or alcohol swabs or anything else. That's all included. So, and the pricing that you see on the website is an all-inclusive price. The process really is seamless. But again, you guys, if you have any questions, at all, or want to learn more, connect with the person that invited you here. We truly appreciate you spending your time with us tonight, and hopefully you guys learned something. All right? Perfect. Well, that's it for tonight. Thank you guys for coming. I'll see you later. Bye.